Standing in a crowded grand hall, Josephine fanned her warm face. The handkerchief in her olive green reticule was already drenched with the sweat she'd been dabbing off her exposed cleavage. The millions of candles illuminating the room gave off an overwhelming warmth. While the silk of her gown flowed, the bodice underneath was laced too tight. It pushed up her bosom and showcased her curvy figure. As she watched the guests mingle, she secretly hoped to find someone else suffering. Every woman, old and young, was trapped in a corset beneath her gowns and wore pointed shoes a size too small. Yet, flirtatious smiles were on their faces as they chatted with suitors. The season was nearly over and only a few were engaged. Josephine was disgusted by the circus she was forced to endure. Mothers painted their daughters up like dolls, mere playthings. Then they had to hold their breaths, waiting for their fathers and brothers to negotiate marriages for them. It was rare that marriages were for love and not status. Josephine was predicted to be the top pick of the season. Her beauty and skills were talked about among every chatting circle. Many suitors flocked to gaze upon her. Some even offered great proposals. Yet, lingering questions and rumors stalked her. There was an incident when Josephine was young. Someone claimed they saw her kissing her childhood friend, Abigail West. The West family moved away weeks later, and Abigail was hospitalized. The poor girl kept ranting about violet lights and angels. Of course, there was the elephant in the room. Josephine's soft skin was shades darker than her mother's fair face. Not even her father's tan was so bronze. There was a maid that many thought had similar features. Her parentage was gossiped about often, and noisy ladies simply wanted Daphne to admit it was an adoption. Regardless, the Viscountess loved and treasured her daughter. The unfortunate rules of the social season simply made her appear stiff. She leaned in to whisper to her mother, "Mama, I can't breathe." "You can breathe after you have secured a husband." Daphne nudged her towards another awaiting suitor. "Duke Henry. How are you this evening? You remember my dear Josephine." He rested his weight on a walking stick when he stopped to speak with the women. The wrinkles on his sagging face were deep. The older gentleman had a head full of white hair and a beard to match. "Mama, you cannot be serious." She grumbled. "Yes. The last time I saw you was during my second wedding." The Duke's eyes wandered over the young lady, and he flashed his crooked yellowing teeth. "You were so young. Delicate. Innocent. I believe I was 5, Your Grace." Josephine felt her stomach turn. Viscountess Daphne sneakily pinched her daughter's leg. "Still young. My delicate little flower. Not to mention she is wonderful with children." "You have 9 little ones, don't you, Your Grace?" "Yes. Though I am not opposed to adding to that number. Round it up, as I like to say." Josephine's gloved hand covered her mouth. She felt the vomit creeping up her throat. Swallowing it down, Josephine offered an excuse to her mother. "Mama, I would like to take a turn on the pianoforte. I better get over there before Lady Evelyn steals all the attention." "There's no need. The Duke is right here." "Of course, Mama." Josephine opened her fan to talk privately. "But let's not forget the talk of a mysterious prince lingering about. Surely, you'd want me to search for him?" Viscountess Daphne nodded. "Of course. You are correct, my dear. Be off then." "It was a pleasure, Your Grace." Josephine curtsied quickly before rushing off. Her exit was blocked by another gentleman. Much younger, but still pushy and unwanted. She politely declined his dance offer and stepped away. Suitor after suitor blocked her path. They asked her to dance, complimented her uncomfortable attire, and spoke of her late father. Her respectful responses became aggressive. Josephine looked around the ballroom in vain, hoping for a rescue. Her frustration built as the heat overwhelmed her. Josephine's airways felt restricted. "Would you get out of my way?" Her outburst made several guests turn their heads. The ladies whispered and giggled at the unsavory behavior. The gentlemen scoffed, turning their noses up. Josephine pushed past the man to run outside. The cool spring air did nothing to ease her. She yanked off her gloves. Her feet took off running to the estate gardens. The darkness of the evening did not stop her from seeing the koi pond and rose bushes. She ran until her heel broke, causing her to trip. Her hands took the brunt of the fall. A stone along the koi pond's edge cut her palm off. Despite the blood, Josephine tugged at her constricting clothes. She couldn't breathe. Her father's recent death still weighed on her. Faustus's return and Adrian's rejection of her were all overwhelming. The embroidery of her gown became stained with her blood. Tugging wouldn't free her from the bodice. Tears rolled down her face as she began to hyperventilate. Lady Spencer. A gentleman from the party had followed her outside. Please, she ignored the rule that unmarried women shouldn't be alone with men. Josephine turned to him, desperate for assistance. I need it off of me. The man looked around before stepping forward. He gleefully began to untie each string. Now! I need it off now! She shouted. Startled by her outburst, the well-dressed lad tore the back of her dress. She demanded more, and he ripped the bodice as well. He watched Josephine breathe a sigh of relief. Her heavy panting eased as the cool air touched her bare skin. Thank you, sir. She sniffed and wiped her tears. I apologize for the scandal this might cause. It's quite fine. His tone was low while he lightly touched her bare back. Josephine flinched. I should go find my mother. What is the rush? I'm sure there's more I can help you take off. His hand moved up to her shoulder. Don't touch me. She turned to slap him. He caught her wrist. Don't play coy, you tease. Josephine's brown eyes turned violet as she screamed. A loud, high-pitched wail broke the windows of the manor. She gripped his chin forcefully. Her nails dug into his flesh and blood rolled down her wrist. They levitated off the ground, high above the gardens. The fear in his eyes was lost on her. The violet glow of her eyes burned like flames. It scorched his sight, and he screamed in agony. The sound echoed through the night, along with the screams from inside the townhouse. His jaw snapped beneath the force of her grip. Deep scratches were left in his skin from her nails. The ligaments could be seen and he coughed blood. Never touch me again. Josephine's voice was deep and demonic. None of you will touch me again. Inhaling, she took the life out of the suitor in mere seconds. His body, an empty husk, crumbled to the ground. Her hunger was not satisfied. In her current state, she demanded more essence. Josephine turned her attention towards the manor. Outstretching her arms and inhaling deeply, the life force of guests flowed out the shattered windows. The power was intense. It had been years since she embraced her abilities. Now, she couldn't even control it. The home rumbled. The ground shook. The screams died down as people lost their lives. Faustus lurked close by. His cold heart swelled with pride. The horrifying screams were a symphony to his ears. Josephine awoke on the cold garden ground. It was still night. Her dress was torn and stained with blood. The cut on her hand was healed. She felt dizzy and struggled to stand. A gasp left her mouth when she saw the gentleman's dead body. Looking around, she saw the broken glass and cracked foundation of the townhouse. Mother? Josephine gathered her strength to run to the front door. Mother! The cold corpses of servants were around the garden. Some laid on the steps leading to the front door. Oh no. You do not want to see what is in there. Niall appeared before her. No. I can help. I can save her. Josephine fought against him to no avail. I'm afraid it's too late. He caught her as she fell to her knees. While she'd witnessed loss in her past lives, Josephine was still haunted by Kenneth's death. She never killed someone she loved. The loss of her mother didn't sneak up on her as her father's death had. It hit her in an instant. Every memory played like a mournful siren call in her mind, echoing her grief, pulling her into a dark pit of misery. She'd never forgive herself. She could never get this part back. No matter how desperately she wanted it. Her life depended on it, but it was gone. The value of her power didn't amount to the pricelessness of human life. It was an accident, she sobbed. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to hurt anyone. There. It will be fine, my friend. Niall stroked her hair. Please, take it away. Make the pain stop. Niall continued to stroke the top of her head. His voice was low, soothing her to relax in his embrace. There was a sinister grin on his face as Smith clouded the memories in her head. Following his master's order, Niall took Josephine to her earliest life. Back to when she was Faustus's princess, and she didn't hold her father to such contempt. The tears on her cheeks dried up as she forgot her present. The spark left her eyes as her soul dimmed,